What words of hope would you leave people with?
Wow, I think it's really a matter of self-empowerment.
Do you have a backache, migraines, or some other pain that you just can't seem to get rid of? You've been to doctors and therapists. Maybe you tried acupuncture. You're ready to give up. Don't give up. Joe Hippensteel has a revolutionary methodology that can help you. The Navy SEALs, the Olympic team, and others use his approach to heal. He's helped me with some of my own muscle related issues, and his thousands of stories of patient success read like mini miracles. And they are for the people involved. This is a conversation that just might change your life. Joe, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Okay. Uh, yeah, thank you for having me. Really, my story is one of, I guess it's called persistence and perseverance, having high goals. And as a young athlete, I just always wanted to achieve as much as I could. So I played multiple sports. And that led me to, because I'm small, I couldn't really compete in football and basketball the way I wanted to. So I opted to focus more on track and field. And in track and field, I wasn't any superstar in any one event. So I wanted to do the all around. I figured if I could average my scores per event in the decathlon, there's 10 events, that maybe I'd have a shot. So it's really a matter of a lifelong mission, 20 some years of hard training, whereas most decathletes will last maybe 6 to 8 years. But I trained for anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a day for 20 years. And you kind of learn a lot about yourself when you're putting that much intensity into any kind of goal. And to get to that intensity, to get to that goal on a daily basis in my training, I really put my body through the ringer, and to get um, taking it to the limit all the time. And so I started having injuries, and through the years, I had over 100 injuries that I was able to overcome by myself. Doctors didn't help, physical therapists didn't help, all the different modalities and all the gadgets they have in athletic training room. So it's really, I guess you'd say, you run into a bump in the road, you go over it.
What drove you to train so hard?
I just loved sports, and I loved the the challenges, especially in the decathlon with 10 different events. I just couldn't train it hard enough. I couldn't get enough, and you train for 8 to 10 hours per day, and you come back the next day and do it again, do it again. So um, it's just a matter of keeping the goals. I think one of the things that people take for granted is they have a goal, they work hard, they burn out, and it's over. So for me, I always knew that I had to keep feeding the goal, and that means doing things to be motivated, like watching inspirational movies or reading inspirational books. And so it's once the goal is locked, you have to create a plan. And that's what I did for many years.
So, after all these years of training, what was where did you go from there?
It led me to when I went to a small college in Pennsylvania, and the track and field coach said that he didn't want me wasting my time on those other events. And I said, well, I'll see you later. So I transferred to I said, I'm going to go to California and train for the Olympics. And I applied for 3 different schools. The first one that accepted me was Fresno State. I jumped on a plane and went to Fresno State. And I was probably the worst guy on the team, number 7 in decathlon succession. And within 2.5 years, I was number 1. And at that point, my hometown newspaper wrote an article about me, and sorry, I get very passionate about this, but my mom sent the article to the track coach at the smaller school, and at that point, I could have beaten his team by myself.
Good for you. Isn't that a satisfying feeling when you work so hard and you see the result?
For sure. I mean, it's like your goal has come to life, and you keep working and working and working, and you end up on top. So that's kind of my story and my journey.
Where did that take you? Now, you did you get on the refresh my memory. Did you get on the Olympic team?
No, I never made the team. Um, had a lot of injuries that kind of prevented me from finishing the goal, but I think that it's the journey, not just necessarily the destination, that really is the mark of success for me. And
You know,
so,
no,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You mentioned that you learned a lot about yourself going through this. What are some of the things you learned?
wow, how much you can how much you can take, how much you put your body through and still keep going. And there's times when you question what you're doing because it's so hard and so long, and um, it's really a matter of persistence. You just got to keep going. Either the goal is strong enough to keep you going, or you throw in the towel.
So, how did this evolve into your methodology for treating injuries? Because your methodology is really interesting and I think absolutely revolutionary.
Yeah, it is. It's a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough in medical science, a breakthrough in athletic training, training methods, and it evolved by me being able to fix my own injuries when no one else could. Now I'm talking about I went to every chiropractor and doctor and voodoo, and when you don't get the answers, but yet you're not willing to stop, then you keep looking. And I experimented with my training. I got stronger, and I got worked on my technique more to become more efficient, and then eventually flexibility became even more and more important as I put my body through all the tense training. You have to be able to neutralize that, otherwise it kind of gathers through the years, and it becomes a problem. And what I noticed was there's certain ranges of motion that if your body can reach these ranges, you don't have injuries. You don't have tennis elbow. You don't have migraine headaches. You don't have bulging discs or plantar fasciitis or shin splints. Those are all signs of tension. And one of the other podcasters asked me, he goes, "Well, why don't doctors know this?" they just they're not trained in it. Nobody's trained in it until we established standards. And once we have standards for ranges of motion, you can either reach them or you can't. And if you can't, you're going to continue to accumulate tension. So
How
if you can
how did you
unwind
establish
that,
these I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. How do you but I find this very interesting because as you know, we've been working together in some of my issues. And how did you establish these ranges of motion?
yeah, it comes down to experimentation. When 6 weeks before the Olympic trials one year, the doctors and the trainers and the coaches, they all said, "Oh, your hamstring's torn," and I'm like, "Well, I got 6 weeks left. I have to figure this out." Well, you can't. It's torn. So I just kept working it day and night. I'd try and strengthen it, and I'd try different therapies and heat and cold, and when at night, it hurt so bad I couldn't sleep, so I'd massage it. It felt like the deeper that I went with my massage, the easier it was to stretch.
Hmm.
So once I got my nose to touch my knee with my leg straight, I'm like, "Hey, it's not there anymore." And that was a revelation because if it's torn, how can you get rid of it? And I
Well,
was
you
able to,
can't unless it's repaired.
right. And that's just it. It's like, wait a second, everybody's telling me it's torn. And I'm thinking, no, there was a kink in the muscle and I got it out.
That is amazing. I look back on my tennis elbow, which acupuncture actually helped me with that,
Okay.
a good deal, but, so many of these things seem to be medical mysteries, but if you look at the work you've done, they're not at all.
That's exactly right. It's so simple. The solution is right there in front of you. And um, when I go talk to these doctors through the years and even more recently, just talk to them about different injuries and things. And it is a mystery to them. There's a big article that was written not too long ago about hamstrings. And they've interviewed all these physiologists and doctors and athletic trainers, and nobody can figure out why there's hamstring injuries. And I'm like, it's so simple. You got to have flexibility to a standard, not just stretching. Flexibility to a standard. When you reach the standard, it's just not there anymore. And so then I found the same thing with my shoulder and different parts of my body. Whenever they hurt, I would just keep working it until it seemed like the kinks were out. So that was a revelation for sure. And then I just started establishing the map, which is now what we call the Joe Hippensteel Method. Gives every range of motion for every ailment. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a musculoskeletal issue, most likely we're going to get rid of it, unless a bone is broken or a muscle is completely torn. In that case, you would know that because there's a big black and blue mark under the skin, meaning that there's a tear. But other than that, I hear all the time, whether it's Navy SEALs we work with or professional athletes, oh, it's torn, it's torn. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Let me see it. And they said, what do you mean? You can't tell by looking at it. I said, yeah, I can. If there's a big black and blue patch underneath the skin, then it's most likely torn. And even if it's partially torn, we can get the kink out around it. So you may have a little bit of damage to the muscle, but as long as the rest of it's functioning fine, then you're 90%.
How is there any sort of imaging or anything like that that can help you see this? Or is it more of a, cultivated talent, from doing this for so long?
Yeah, it is cultivated because, like, I mean, I get X-rays and I get MRI reports from clients all the time, and there's this long explanation with all these medical terms about what's wrong with the vertebra and stenosis and the impinged nerve and blah blah blah. And I'm like, what does it feel like? And they go tight. I'm like, that's the point. It's that simple.
Now, you've had success in working with people with non-sports injuries, things like migraines, haven't you?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether you're an intense athlete or whether you sit at a computer all day. If you're holding a position, you're creating tension. And if you do it day after day after day, I mean, for computer people, their neck, their shoulders, it just, you end up shrugging your shoulders all through the day thinking, there's got to be a way to relieve this. And you get a little blood circulation there just from shrugging your shoulders, but it only lasts for a few minutes. And you got to do it again and again. And I'm saying if you get to certain ranges of motion, certain things like certain ranges and certain angles that we put in our map here, it neutralizes. It's a neutralizing of tension.
Now, is there a methodology? I mean, you gave me a methodology to work on my hands where
Mhm.
I stretched up to a certain point, and part of it was then resting to let the blood flow back into the area.
Yeah, there's two parts to what we teach. You've got to be able to expand the muscle tissue, and that means long, sustained, static stretching. Now, the whole athletic world is like, no, don't do static stretching before you work out, and they think it inactivates the muscle fiber. They're just wrong. They're just wrong. And eventually, they're all going to do what we're doing because what we do works, and what they're talking about doesn't work. And so, our protocol is when we do a position. First of all, we check ranges of motion to see how close or how far away you are from the range of motion. And if you can't get to our ranges, then we spend 2 minutes on stretching, 1 minute rest, 2 minutes on, 1 minute rest, over and over and over, day after day after day. who may do anywhere from 3 to 5 repetitions per session, at least 6 hours apart. You can do twice a day. And what you're doing is you're basically training the muscle to open back up again.
Mhm.
Very important part of it is never going past a 7 in pain when you stretch. If you go past a 7, your brain shuts you down. It says, no, something's wrong, too much pain. So you've got to back off here. But anything up to a 7 in pain, what we're doing is we're challenging the muscle, and the brain will tell the muscle, okay, it's a 7. It's not too bad. Go ahead and start adapting by stretching. That's what it's about. So very specific protocol, and that's what we write about in the Joe Hippensteel Method in the book, which is done very well, and the word keeps spreading. We're in the Navy SEAL community for 14 years, working with pro athletes for at least that long. And then again, the average population, whether it's migraines or plantar fasciitis or fibromyalgia, restless leg syndrome, all those things are just tension. And it's blowing the mind of the medical community. And some of the doctors are now starting to get certified by us so that they can treat clients instead of just handing out prescriptions.
What are some of the myths of training as it exists traditionally?
Yeah, that's a big can of worms. So much of, and I'll give you an example, the industry that really, once the doctors say, oh, we can't fix it unless you have surgery or injections, so they pass you on to a physical therapist. As smart as they are and as well trained as they are, they do not understand flexibility. They think they do. They say, here's your stretches. They'll pull out a ditto sheet off the computer and say, here, do these stretches. There's no plan. There's no set standard or protocol. Just here, do these stretches. And if you don't reach our standard, you're not going to get there. It's just that simple. And it's too simple for many of those smart people that, oh yeah, we do stretching. Okay, well then why am I here?
Now, the stretching component of it makes total sense to me, particularly since I spend a lot of time in front of the computer. And
Mhm.
as a result of reading your book, I have actually revamped my daily routine to
Wow.
I always set aside time to meditate and things like that, but I'm setting aside time to do more pay more attention to my physical well-being, and that really goes directly to stretching. And I think it's as you get older, particularly, it's something you have to pay more and more attention to.
Yeah, you have to unwind the tension we create in our activities or daily ongoing lifestyle. We accumulate tension, and it's like if you put your leg in a cast for a year where you can't bend it, you take the cast off. Guess what? You're going to be very tight. So we do that with our lifestyles. If we sit at a computer day after day, year after year, eventually your shoulders and your neck and your back, and you're holding yourself upright thinking you have good posture, and what you're doing is you're flexing muscles all day long. And what we're saying is unwind, let it go. And we give a very specific protocol on how to do that.
What is muscle lock?
Muscle lock is when a muscle goes beyond tight. This is kind of a new concept that really the core of what we teach is when a muscle goes beyond tight, it starts to lock up. There's 12 reasons why a muscle will lock. For example, let's say that you want to go and do some deadlifts in the gym. So you're lifting a heavy weight, and your buddies are over there lifting 400 pounds, and you're not trained for that, but you think, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to psych up. So you go grab the bar, you start to stand up, and your whole back just goes bam and stops. Right? You can relate. That's what we call just too much force when your body is not trained to do that. Another one is impact injury. If you have a whiplash, a car hits you from the side, your head goes jolting to one side or the other, and your muscles will lock to protect the joints. And it literally happens as fast as an airbag deploys in a car. It just locks. And once it locks, you have whiplash. And whiplash, they want to do all the testing on your spine, and you have stenosis, and you have nerve impingement, and then they want you to strengthen your neck, and all you're doing is making things worse. You've got to free up the ranges of motion, and your body's doing it to protect you. So you've got to learn how to unwind that. So,
In the
and then
case
just
of
overuse, like sitting at a computer all day. That's
Mhm.
overuse. Your muscles finally just say, okay, we're going on strike. We're going to lock up on you.
And how do you go about I mean, you have range of motion, indicators, obviously, but how do you go about, say, in the case of whiplash, unlocking that?
Again, we test the ranges of motion. And
Mhm.
let's say that someone can only tilt their head, 10 degrees. And yet what you should be able to do is put that ear on your shoulder. And if you can't do that, you spend 2 minutes stretching, 1 minute
Mhm.
rest, 2 minutes stretching, 1 minute rest. And the rest in between stretches is just as important as the stretch. We'll have athletes or Navy SEALs say, well, what if I just do 3 reps in a row, 6 minutes? And we're like, no, you challenge the muscle for 2 minutes at a 7 in pain. Then when you come out of it, you wait. It's like putting oil in the Tin Man on the Wizard of Oz. You got to wait for the blood to flow back in the little areas you've opened. Then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. Eventually, you're training the muscles to open back up again. And when people call me 3 months after starting our program and they say, well, I've been stretching every day, but my back still hurts. And I said, okay, but what matters is not that you're stretching every day, but are you reaching the standard? And if they're not reaching the standard, then you're not out of trouble yet. They're just, continuing to retain that tension. That's the enemy.
How long does it take to retrain your muscles?
Wow. There's 18 different variables that we look at.
Okay. What
How
are some of
long?
them? Yeah, what are some of the variables?
Yeah. So first thing, if you look at your age,
Mhm.
a 10-year-old is going to stretch out easier than a 80-year-old, a little bit longer. And so age is one. Um, your lifestyle, what sports you're doing, other things that you're doing to counteract the flexibility is if you continue to do a sport, let's say a young athlete, a 14-year-old baseball pitcher, and he's been throwing since he's 8 years old, and his shoulders, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and they think, well, we'll just keep throwing every day. That'll loosen up the shoulder. That's not how you loosen up the shoulder. You do flexibility to loosen up the shoulder. Well, you have to throw every day to strengthen the arm. No, you strengthen it in the weight room. So we just have to adjust the way they think and the way that they train. Um, and so your lifestyle is important. What activities you're doing. Your age is important. Um, if you've had a history of injuries, you have to do certain things in order to overcome those. But yeah, total of then you have to look at, okay, well, are you in the building phase or the maintenance phase? 20% of the population has what we call natural flexibility. They're the people that can go to yoga and they have fun, and it doesn't matter if you do everything wrong, right? You've seen them; they're like pretzels. But the rest of us, we have to work at it and work at it
Yeah,
and work
I
at
hate those people. I mean, I know yoga is really good for you, but I've never really enjoyed it. I enjoy the outcome, but I don't enjoy yoga.
Yes, it's funny when I work with some of the pro teams and see some of these big guys in there trying to do yoga, and I'm just like laughing, like, "What are you doing? You're gonna get hurt." You get a skinny little yoga teacher up front and say, "Here, do this, do this, do this," and the football players are struggling to keep up, and they're like, "Well, if she can do it, I can do it." No, that's not how it works. So, yeah, a lot of variables, and that's we set that up based on the on the needs of the people. How long their injury's been there. Um, yeah, all the different medical parts of it. But it really still comes down to, can you do the ranges of motion or can't you? If you can't, you hurt. Period.
Mhm.
And they give you labels.
Labels.
Yeah, like arthritis, bursitis, tendonitis, bulging discs, migraine headaches, plantar fasciitis, blah blah blah.
What are some of the most remarkable quote unquote cures that you have seen?
That we've had through the years.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, we're talking thousands of cases. We one Navy SEAL who had part of his elbow and hip blown off in a combat zone. and they did tremendous surgery to save his elbow, but he could never straighten out his arm. He had about a 40-degree bend in it for 40 years, 40, 40. Could not open it. They tried standing on his hand to try and, force it to open. He's 250 pounds, so he'd hang on a chin-up bar and see if he could get it to go straight. Nothing. Took us an hour and a half, and it opened.
You're kidding. Okay, tell
Amazing.
some more stories. This is amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing. I have a kid right now who is probably going to get drafted to Major League Baseball literally next week. They told him 5 years ago, "You'll never play baseball again." Broken back. Went to 5 different surgeons, specialists across the country. His dad's a doctor. His mother is a nurse, and so they're connected medically. And they tried everything, and nothing worked. And he came to me, and I said, "Let me check your ranges of motion." And he was about 30, 40% deficient in every range. And I said, "Okay, I want you to work on exactly this protocol." We stretched for 3 hours the first day, by the way.
Mhm.
Then he went to work, and I said, "You'll be playing in 10 days. Amazing. He's been playing ever since, got a full scholarship, and is now out of college, and he's literally trying out for 2 different major league teams this week. So, people, it's like if you go back to those doctors and you say, "Well, he's fine now," they're like, they don't even care. What they're like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm busy now, so go away."
You're no
Instead of
longer a candidate for an expensive surgery. Leave.
yeah, I mean, instead of wanting to learn what we're doing and seeing the miracle in it, yeah, okay, well, I'm busy, so run along. So yeah,
That's too bad because this is really, I think, revolutionary in terms of treating such a wide range of issues, not only for people like SEALs and athletes, but for everyday people. Now, where can people find you? And do you have a clinic, or how are you spreading word about your method?
yeah. My book is called The Joe Hippensteel Method. You can buy
Hmm.
it on Amazon. Uh, the Audible version comes out literally by the end of this week. And we have a website called ultimatehumanperformance.com. That's ultimatehumanperformance.com. We sell videos there teaching different levels. We do seminars all over the world. We just got back from London, had a very successful seminar over there. And word just keeps spreading that we're having success. So every time we have a seminar, it grows. So, when you're changing a paradigm in life, you go through different stages. The first stage is everybody will laugh at you and think you're crazy. Second stage is when you start to gain some traction and you have one success story after another. Then they fight you because it interferes with their paradigms, with their methodologies. And eventually, you have enough, successes that everybody wants to be your best friend. They want to be part of it. So we certify people. We have 100 people trained across the world in, I think, 12, 13 different countries. We have 10,000 clients in 57 countries. So slowly but surely, we're making progress.
And where can people find the folks who are certified in their country? Is that on your website?
Yeah, on the website, you go to the coaches section or instructors, I forget, and it has a list of the people who are certified, where they are, their contact. We just certified last week in London. We certified someone from Norway, Germany, Ireland, Australia, Spain. So the word just keeps spreading. Like I said, we even have a couple doctors that are seeing the miracle in it, and they drop their ego, they learn what we're doing, and now instead of just writing prescriptions, they can actually treat people.
Have you thought about going directly to any of the post medical school, the residency training programs, particularly in things like orthopedics, or are they just not receptive?
Have I thought about it? Yes. Is there any chance of us getting in? No, until they invite me. And eventually, um, we're going to get a lot of invitations to a lot of places. We've done some preliminary survey studies with the Navy SEALs, and success rate is higher than 90% on did they increase range of motion? 90% said yes. 90% said they decreased their pain. 90-some percent said they would recommend this to every friend, SEAL, family member because it's so effective. The biggest part of the chart is how do you feel about UHP, ultimate human performance methodologies compared to other modalities? 92% said ours is more effective. So we just keep plowing along and producing results. And you can't argue with results. They can try. They'll say, oh, it's not a double-blind study, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you've been to 5 doctors and nothing works, so you came to us and it works. So, like, you make your own decision. I don't care if it's a double-blind study or not. Results are results.
What words of hope would you leave people with?
Wow, I think it's really a matter of self-empowerment. When people get injured or they have whatever ailment and they go to a doctor and they don't really get results, and it takes them 3 months to find another specialist, and they finally get in and no results there. So they try something different. They try acupuncture, and they try voodoo, and they try, athletic training methods, and everybody has a guru, but yet if they're not getting results, you gotta look for the source of the pain, look for the source of the problem, and that's what we're teaching, right to the source. And it doesn't matter whether it's. Some people ask me, well, you said that you can fix migraines. We've done 100 migraine cases, and in the United States, it's a $42 billion industry every year. We've conquered it with 100 cases. And so people are like, well, if you focus on migraines, how do you do other things like plantar fasciitis? It's the same thing. It's tension. Or tennis elbow. It's the same thing. It's all tension. So, people say that we're magicians, that we can fix anything. Well, if you just reach our standards of range of motion, things just kind of disappear and they're not there anymore. So we're just really proud of the work that we're doing, and the word's spreading, and it's a very gratifying endeavor. And it all started with, I just wanted to make an Olympic team.